What's up, wrestling fans? You're watching Fight Talks News, the one-stop spot for every WWE. It wasn't an angle, a script, or a setup for the next big feud. It was something far more human. A beloved figure, larger than life to millions, suddenly unwell and unreachable, had left an entire community suspended in collective shock. For years, this performer had carried storylines, championships, and expectations like armor, embodying invincibility for a global audience that cheered every triumph. But now the character was gone, and in his place stood a vulnerable man, frail, silent, and fighting for his life. The absence echoed across arenas and households alike. Commentators stopped talking, superstars went quiet, and fans, used to the comfort of performance, were forced to confront something painfully real. The first whispers, mistaken for storyline. At first, no one believed it. Wrestling thrives on illusion, on blurred lines between performance and reality. So when word spread that the champion had missed an event, that travel plans had been quietly canceled, that social media had gone silent, the reaction was instinctive disbelief. Fans speculated about a new plot twist. Insiders debated secret injuries. Forums filled with theories, everything from scripted absences to shock returns. But as hours turned into days, the silence deepened. No cryptic tweet, no corporate statement, no teasing vignette, just nothing. That emptiness, so unlike the rhythm of professional wrestling, became its own message. Slowly, unease began to spread. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was a life interrupted. The collapse, a private emergency, becomes public pain. When the truth broke, it came not from an announcement, but from whispers. Family members arriving at a hospital, longtime colleagues turning their phones off, reporters suddenly soft-spoken. The man who had been the face of an empire, the warrior millions had believed could endure anything, had collapsed. Gone were the lights and smoke of entrances. In their place were monitors, hushed voices, and sterile halls. The audience, so accustomed to dramatized danger, was now witnessing genuine fragility. And for once, there were no heroes or villains, no scripted winners. Only people terrified for someone they loved. It was the moment when a global spectacle turned inward, revealing the cost of all that strength, all that perfection, all that silence. The family's vigil. Bloodlines gathered. In wrestling, family is often part of the story, but for this dynasty, it was real. Blood that stretched across generations, from legends of the past to heirs of the present. They came together quietly, arriving in waves at a Florida hospital. Uncles, cousins, siblings, partners. For decades, their family had defined dominance, but now they gathered not as icons, but as relatives praying for one of their own. They sat in waiting rooms with clasped hands, speaking softly about childhoods, about laughter, about the days before fame. In that space, the titles and trophies melted away. What mattered wasn't legacy or empire, but love. Love that was scared, tired, and desperate for one more day. Medical uncertainty and the weight of hope. Doctors did what doctors do. They ran tests, they monitored numbers, they spoke in careful clinical language that families cling to even when they don't understand it. There were treatments, procedures, possibilities, but there were no guarantees. Each update felt like a coin flip between hope and heartbreak. The family tried to stay strong. Some prayed, others sat in silence. And while fans across the world speculated, inside that hospital, the truth was quieter and heavier. The helpless waiting that forces people to confront how little control they actually have. For a family known for fighting through anything, waiting was its own kind of pain. Private letters and the voice behind the mask. Then came the most haunting revelation, fragments of personal writings found among his belongings. In one, he wrote of feeling like he was living two lives, the performer adored by millions, and the man behind the curtain who couldn't exhale. He described the weight of expectation, the loneliness of leadership, and the ache of wondering whether people loved him or the idea of him. It was a rare, fragile glimpse into the soul of someone who had always seemed impenetrable. Those words spread online, moving fans to tears. They revealed what many suspected but few articulated, that even those who look strongest often carry the deepest pain. The aftershocks: industry, insurance, and the business of care. As weeks passed, the ripples reached corporate boardrooms. Creative scripts were shredded. Future storylines were paused indefinitely. Meetings once focused on ratings shifted toward contingency plans and healthcare logistics. Insurance policies were reviewed. Wellness programs were rewritten. The man who had once been the cornerstone of profit margins had now become the catalyst for reform. In a business that rarely stops, his sudden stillness forced it to pause, to think not in terms of ticket sales or pay-per-view buys, but in terms of people. For once, the business of wrestling was about care rather than spectacle. Children and the tenderest moments. Through it all, the most delicate moments belonged to his children. Shielded from cameras, they were brought quietly to his bedside. The smallest one held a stuffed animal he'd given her after a show and whispered a question no adult could answer. "When will Daddy wake up?" Nurses turned away, wiping tears. The family, so used to public strength, found themselves undone by that innocent voice. The room fell silent, filled with the hum of machines and the soft sound of a child's breathing. It was a reminder that behind the arenas, the music, the pyrotechnics, there are families, fragile and ordinary, who love and lose like anyone else. Leadership's response: apologies, regret, and resolve. Eventually, company leaders arrived, not as executives but as men and women visibly humbled. Gone were the rehearsed statements. In their place were quiet apologies, long pauses, and genuine regret. They spoke of missed signs, of moments when they should have insisted on rest instead of one more show. Promises were made to reform travel schedules, to prioritize medical screenings, to finally treat wellness not as a PR talking point, but as a duty of care. For a company that had built empires on strength, this was the beginning of learning compassion, legacy, and the question of return. As doctors monitored progress and family members traded shifts at the bedside, the question of a comeback faded. No one talked about championships or main events anymore. The new question was legacy, not the one written in record books, but the one left in hearts. Could his story, even unfinished, teach something lasting? In his struggle, fans saw not weakness, but courage. Vulnerability, once taboo in wrestling culture, began to look like a new kind of strength. If he never entered the ring again, he had already changed the narrative, proving that humanity itself could be heroic. Conclusion. A story beyond the ring. When the cameras finally looked away, what remained was not a belt or a headline, but a family gathered around a bed, hands entwined, praying for one more tomorrow. Outside, a global community held its breath, and in that collective silence, something sacred emerged, a reminder that no matter how bright the lights or how loud the cheers, we are all bound by the same fragile truth. We fight, we falter, we love. And when the show ends, what endures is not the spectacle, but the soul, the simple, stubborn wish to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved when the lights go out.